it's very difficult to continually grow your balance sheet faster than the expansion of the money supply, which means you're just moving backwards. Put Bitcoin on your balance sheet. Now you're using it as a weapon, and you're leveraging that to grow the enterprise value of your business. I think this is the future. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Every business is going to have Bitcoin, just like every individual is. It's just a matter of time. You have to completely change your mental models when approaching Bitcoin. The money a civilization uses determines the state of consciousness of its inhabitants. If you have poor money, if you have corrupt, unsound, toxic money, you have a unsound civilization. I will say that is what we're living through right now. Peak absolutely clown world. Absolutely ridiculous upside down world.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button, which is the easiest way you could show your support for the show and help it grow, as well as making sure you don't miss out any of the future episodes. Also, a big shout out to Stampseed for sponsoring the show. Check out stampseed.com for more information. And now let's get the episode underway. Welcome to another episode of Your Bitcoin Story, the podcast where we explore the journeys of builders, thinkers, and innovators shaping the future of Bitcoin. I'm your host, Gigi, and today our guest is Daniel Frank, founder of Sovereign. Daniel started Sovereign in late 2023 with the mission to help business owners understand and integrate Bitcoin in their finances and operations. With a growing team of advisors across the globe and US, Sovereign is bringing the Saylor Playbook to everyday businesses. Today, we'll discuss how businesses can leverage Bitcoin and the role Sovereign plays in building them through this new financial landscape. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise. Thank you for taking the time. And I'm also looking forward to hearing more about how you're spreading the Saylor Playbook across other financial institutions. But before we kind of jump down that rabbit hole and learn more about what Sovereign does, Daniel, let's kick it off like we do with all the guests. Where does your journey into the world of Bitcoin begin?
Right. So, we got to go back to the bull market of 2016 when a lot of people got their first contact with Bitcoin, I believe. That's when myself and my friends started getting notice of crypto. It was this whole casino vibe, like, oh, people are getting rich off this. Let's jump on this bandwagon as well. I always liked the idea of investing, but the whole crypto, which I say in quotation marks, is it had this appeal of the way for young people to get rich. Like, we were not going to buy stocks or real estate or something like that. We were like, crypto, that's the way we're going to get rich. And unfortunately, we didn't understand what we were dealing with. I mean, I was like 20 at the time. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was all just technical analysis. Hey, look at this crypto, look at that. Oh, it's doing this and doing that with it. And honestly, not to offend anybody, but I think the whole technical analysis thing, it's a lot of self-delusion in a way. I mean, there's some to it, but I think you want to look at the fundamentals of what you're investing in. Like, you fundamentally believe in a company, you believe in a commercial real estate property because it logically makes sense, or you believe fundamentally in Bitcoin. This whole idea of just all these people just trying to get a leg up on each other by over analyzing charts and stuff. It was just a huge mess, and I wasted so much time. And when the market inevitably crashed, we basically gave up. We were like, well, that's it, because we didn't understand it, right? So it wasn't for a fundamental reason. It was just for the number go up, right? And sold all my Bitcoin. All my friends did the same and didn't come back around until like late 2020, early 2021. Yeah.
What brought you back in 2020? I guess with the COVID crash and everything, you had a lot of time on your hands, no?
Yeah, it was not. I cannot even take credit for it. Sorry, it was my mentor that started talking about it again and talking about Bitcoin. He had the whole narrative about the US dollar getting debased, was worried about an imminent financial crisis and the dollar just continually losing its presence, and then talking about Bitcoin as this new global reserve currency and it being like a fundamental technology. And I was like, I never, despite probably spending 500 to 1,000 hours in the whole crypto thing and reading articles over and over again, I was never exposed to that kind of narrative. Like, this is not just an investment or some one asset out of all of these 10,000. This is like a fundamental new technology that's going to change the world. And it's completely different from the rest of the crypto. And that really opened my mind. And when I then went to look, suddenly you had the Bitcoin standard. I wish I had that in 2016, right? You had Michael Saylor coming on the scene, the Saylor series with Robert Breedlove. I mean, as somebody that studied history and anthropology and psychology and human civilization, that was probably the most fascinating podcast series I've ever listened to. Just two unbelievably intelligent people going back to the Stone Age and giving you like the story of civilization from then, and then it all like coalescing in Bitcoin and digital capital. It completely blew my mind, and ever since then, Bitcoin has just taken over my life, and it's all I think about. So, yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, the Robert Breedlove series with Michael Saylor, I think that was like a series of podcasts that orange pilled a lot of people and was kind of their aha moment with Bitcoin. Like, it was the true separation of Bitcoin and the whole shitcoinery casino that's out there. And, you know, it's interesting, like,
Yes.
I don't have that many guests that come on that kind of discovered Bitcoin and just like stuck to Bitcoin. Like, everyone has that shitcoin phase, including myself. I started my journey in 2017, and I was always looking for the next Bitcoin. I was like, well, if Bitcoin started it, you know, there's the usual technological evolution of, you know, technology. Like, there's always like the first mover, but there's always something better and better and better. But then after, you know, numerous years, you come to a realization there is nothing better. Like, Bitcoin is really in a league of its own. And I guess everyone has to go through that experience as well. Now we have, you know, the US government with the strategic reserve, and they said, you know, they will include all these cryptocurrencies in there, and everybody's like, yeah, but why not just Bitcoin? I kind of have this stance. Well, they're human also. They need to go and get burnt on shitcoinery as well and come to a realization, actually, those Bitcoin maxis did have a point. Like, it is only Bitcoin. So, like, we see these in all kind of paradigms, may that be the average retailer or a government executive.
Man, you're perfectly right. I think there's some wisdom to that in a way. You can't force people to go to the end conclusion, which is that there is no second best. You have to. It's like there's certain things in life. Yes, there's certain things in life that you have to live through in order to truly appreciate it. I mean, many different examples of things, but
True.
I think whenever you come to discover crypto and Bitcoin, it's only natural that you look at the general market and because it's not, Bitcoin is so unique. It's not common that some new product or service or technology comes out and it's just the end all be all. Like, I don't even know what to compare that to. I mean, the only thing you can compare it to is a protocol. But even protocols have a tendency to go through changes and iterations until we land on the right one. Because Bitcoin has been going through a lot of changes, but the point is you have to completely change your mental models when approaching Bitcoin. There is no MySpace, Facebook comparison. It's not, there's going to be a next Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the solution to a very fundamental problem, and it combined all these technologies. It was the innovation. It was the cutting edge. And then came all the imitators. And surely there's a place for some of them somewhere, but it's not as a competitor to Bitcoin because it already won. The day it was released, it already won because it solved the problem.
100%. It's like trying to make the better internet, right? Like, nobody's really going to make a better internet protocol, right? Like, or like someone's going to reinvent the telephone line. Like, you can't really reinvent it. You can build on it, but like you can't reinvent it. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin's the same thing. And, on that kind of analogy, like I like to say, a lot of people say like, oh, Bitcoin's, the next thing to the internet, or like Bitcoin's bigger than the internet. To me, Bitcoin is completing what the internet started. Like the internet gave us this
Mm.
fantastic access of us being able to communicate with anyone. Right now we're recording this podcast thanks to the internet protocol. But now we can actually also transact with Bitcoin that is uncensorable, unconfiscatable. No matter if you're in a sanctioned country or not, nobody, no institution, no person can say, no, that wallet could not receive this Bitcoin transaction. It's kind of the last
Yeah.
puzzle in my eyes of what the internet started, where now we can not only just communicate and send, boundless data, but we can also send monetary value to anyone, any of the 8 billion plus people in this world, which is super powerful. So I tell a lot of people, and especially listeners on this podcast, like, don't focus on the price. Like, even at the moment of the recording, the price is kind of on a dip, but that doesn't matter. Like, the price is not $70,000, $80,000. The price is one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Focus on stacking sats and don't focus on the fiat value, because Bitcoin's not volatile. Fiat is volatile. Bitcoin's always one
Mm.
Bitcoin, So that's kind of the analogy I try to get people to think about. It's kind of, really focus on stacking more sats instead of how much of my portfolio is worth in dollar terms, because the dollar is depreciating
Yeah.
forever and Bitcoin is appreciating forever. So it's kind of unfair to be measuring Bitcoin in fiat terms. But that also, just like the understanding of the fundamentals of Bitcoin, it takes a long time for you to start looking at things in a monetary way of Bitcoin, like valuing things in Satoshis. Because generally when you enter the space, you're converting it to US dollars or GBP or yen or whatever your fiat value is in your environment. But that's not the right way, because that's kind of it's a false way to be valuing Bitcoin. But
Man, that was a lot of wisdom right there, I would say. Some hard-earned wisdom. Man, awesome. I think the whole trading thing, I mean, let's just address, so Bitcoin is down now, last I checked, it was like 75,000, but if you think about it, nothing happened with Bitcoin. There's not some news that, oh, Bitcoin got hacked or this or that happened. This is because of the tariff wars and the trade wars and all this stuff. So Bitcoin
and degen
is
leveraged
caught in the
traders
crossfire.
overexposing themselves.
Yeah, so Bitcoin is just caught in the crossfire, all that. But I think the real point is, when we come to Bitcoin and crypto, we're looking at it from our old fiat perspective of, I'm trying to make a buck, I'm trying to get in early, get out later with a profit, buy low, sell high, get it back into US dollars or euros, and move on with my life. What eventually happens is you realize that the goal is not to get more dollars, it's to get more Bitcoin. And you keep extending your time horizon, and eventually you don't really, I mean, I think the whole crypto and trading thing goes hand in hand, like, because that stuff is fast moving. Like, you got to be in,
Mm.
out, you got to be on the Discord, you got to be on the pump or the dump
You need to
side of
grow a
it.
third
It's,
eye, for your third monitor.
oh my goodness, yes, you need to be locked in 24/7 to what all these degenerates are doing. But with
Mm.
Bitcoin, the only winning strategy is a long-term strategy. If you're glued to
100%.
the screen, you're gonna get emotionally wrecked, you're gonna get financially wrecked. Yeah, so I love to see that in Bitcoiners when they realize it's all about accumulating Bitcoin. And that's what I love seeing in companies like Strategy and Metaplan. They're not just buying Bitcoin as a novelty. They're saying our goal is to get as much Bitcoin as possible. I think that is just fascinating, and that's what I'm super interested into. That kind of mirrors the journey of individuals.
Yeah. So I guess that would be a nice transition now to kind of seal our quick discussion on trading. I'll finish it off with a TLDR quote. Time in the market always outweighs timing the market. Don't try to buy the bottom and the top, because it'll never happen. Just keep on stacking and move it to cold storage and go out, touch some grass and enjoy life. Get away from the screens. But Daniel,
Well
let's
said.
let's transition now to tell us. So, how did your journey lead you to launching Sovereign? Essentially, how did you come? Kind of, what inspired you to start your company?
Right. Yeah. I hope I didn't derail the conversation there. I
Not
just
at all.
can't stop thinking about this. It consumes my mind, right? Um, after really after putting in my couple thousand hours in Bitcoin throughout 2021, 2022, I became obsessed with the idea of companies buying Bitcoin. Um, I in my mind, it's the most logical thing in the world. I mean, I can take it to a very high level and go into the nitty gritty of, oh, it's got this nice Sharpe ratio, yada yada. But listen, it's the same value prop for an individual. Why do you buy Bitcoin? Because it's the best asset, and because the alternatives are either worse or you're holding a currency which is getting debased. It's the same for a company. You have the exact same problem. It's the same for a endowment, an institution, a company, an organization, a country. It's all the same. But I realized that the value proposition of it for businesses was extremely tantalizing for me. And back in 2022, 23, when I started thinking about it, I thought there was going to be an absolute tsunami of companies jumping in on this. Always things take longer than you think. It's always harder than you think. But that was the genesis of what has now become Sovereign, which is a company at the most fundamental. We just want to help companies adopt Bitcoin. That's really what it is, because it's both simple, but it's not necessarily easy to do. There's a whole bunch of new things you have to consider and plan for and strategize. And we have some people on our team that are just unbelievably intelligent and have experience doing these kind of things. And I think working with, whether it's us or another consultancy, it just gives you a much better entrance into this. You make less mistakes, you do better in general, and you get turned on to things you wouldn't necessarily know or think about, and you're just able to maximize your Bitcoin position in your company.
Gotcha. And um, wow, how do I want to take it? There's a few avenues I want to take this on, but I'll guess before I take it on that, I mentioned in the introduction, you kind of Sovereign really focuses on kind of really promoting the Saylor playbook for everyday businesses. Perhaps for our listeners that are not too familiar, I guess I don't know who's not familiar, but let's just hypothetically say that someone's not familiar with the Saylor playbook. Kind of top level, what is the Saylor playbook which you kind of try to apply to small and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, fantastic question. I think this is everybody's super excited about what Saylor's doing, right? He's living in 20 2040, 2030 or something. We're just still stuck in the financial dark ages, right? He's on a whole nother level. I think, again, to start with it very simply, what Saylor's doing is he's converting um, old assets like 20th century capital into new 21st century capital, or taking a less powerful form of currency and converting into a better form of money. So it's literally, it's like he's transmuting. He's taken anything inferior, whether that's US dollars, bonds, his own stock or whatever, and he's just leveraging that or converting it into Bitcoin. And since he's not he, Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, is a publicly traded company, they have access to the public markets, and they can do all this extremely complicated financial engineering, which honestly is probably above my pay grade. I don't have a
Mami,
traditional
prosím tě,
background in
izključi
finance. I don't claim to be some sort
Wi-Fi,
of
který jsou pod televizí, strašnost, internet.
So I couldn't claim to be able to do all the stuff that they're doing, but what I'm saying is, how can we apply that to a normal business? Because let's be real, I mean, there's 5,000 publicly traded companies in the US. There's over 30 million normal companies. So let's say, how can we take what he's doing and apply it to just your average business? that could be a huge business or a small business. And the fundamental thing that it boils down to is, how can you accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible? That can be by converting the cash in your business into Bitcoin, converting sales revenue into Bitcoin. You can start taking on debt to
Voila.
buy Bitcoin if you're doing it intelligently. There's all these different things. And this is what I'm super fascinated about, because small businesses, especially SMEs, they're struggling under inflation. It's very difficult to continually grow your balance sheet faster than the expansion of the money supply, which means
Yeah.
you're just moving backwards. Put Bitcoin on your balance sheet. Now you're using it as a weapon, and you're leveraging that to grow the enterprise value of your business. It's just, I think this is the future. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Every business is going to have Bitcoin, just like every individual is. It's just a matter of time.
Going back to my internet analogy, imagine having a business today that is that doesn't have a website, that's not connected, that's not even a website, that is not utilizing internet. It's basically impossible,
Yeah.
unless you have a banana smoothie milkshake stand on a beachfront somewhere. Probably that's the only
Right.
business that can get by.
And I don't think it's controversial to say now or in the 90s that in the future, every company will be connected to the internet, or every company will have a website or a Google business profile, or have a, I don't know, a Facebook page or something. That's just perfectly logical that you're leveraging the eminent digital technology. And Bitcoin is just that. It's not a niche thing for some people. It's like, it's the most perfected asset in the world. And I don't think it's controversial to say that people are going to want to own that. It's just logic.
It's just a matter of time. But then again, I feel like us, like Bitcoin maxis, that spend like majority of our everyday in our orange echo chamber, we kind of are questioning how come like not every individual on the street, or like most companies, don't have Bitcoin, in their savings or their treasury, or whatnot. But then again, we kind of forget that this is a 16-year-old technology, right? It's not a 60 or a 600-year-old technology. Like, this takes like, if Bitcoin is really bound to be here as a monetary unit of account for like beyond 1,000 years, we are so super early that like even in our lifetimes, but on our deathbeds, people will still like majority probably not be owning Bitcoin. Like, we're so early in it. So I guess sometimes we get too carried away in our, especially on the X echo chamber of Bitcoin. We're like Bitcoin's everywhere. But then you step out of the digital world into the streets and you ask people about Bitcoin, and they're like, Bitcoin what? Like, nobody has any Bitcoin. Like, we're still so early.
Man, I'm so happy you brought that up, because this is something I spend a lot of time thinking about. Sorry if I'm speaking over you. I think there's a little bit of a delay sometimes, so I do apologize.
It's totally fine.
So
with the internet there's a little bit of a lag, but the final recording will be fine. So don't worry about it.
perfect. No, this is something I think about all the time lately, because I think we have a tendency to, I don't want to lean too heavily on that word, but be a little bit naive in the way that we think things are going to happen. Like, you look at Plan B. If somebody was clowning on him yesterday, he was like, yeah, like February we do 125k Bitcoin, and then March we do 150, then full bull market. Then I'm like, that sounds great, and we can really get riled up. But then I bet you, I went out on the street and I stopped 1,000 business owners and I asked them, how many of you are considering Bitcoin on your balance sheet? I don't think a single one of them would even have it on the radar. It's nobody, right? So there's really something to be said about being realistic and taking a step back, to not get over your skis. Because I think I had anticipated that there was going to be way more demand for this. And I think another way, something maybe interesting to say is, I don't think we're ever going to be in a world where everybody loves Bitcoin and understands Bitcoin and uses Bitcoin. Now, they're going to own Bitcoin or going to be interacting with it, but how many people know exactly how a car works and just love like the mechanics of it? Still drive a car. Same goes for the internet. The same goes for all the technology that we use. It's only a very small portion of people that have the proclivity, the interest, and the developmental potential to go super deep on a technology like Bitcoin and sit here muse on podcasts about the societal and philosophical and environmental implications. Most people don't care about that kind of stuff. And I genuinely think we've way crossed the halfway point of finding the the true Bitcoin maxis in the world. I think the majority of them have already been discovered. And I think it's our responsibility, some people call this the remnants, to develop this and bring it to the masses in a way that's palatable for them. And for a lot of people, it is probably just going to be an app on their phone. It's just going to be, they're buying it in the bank, they're storing in the bank. Now, that's going to rub some people the wrong way if you're like a hardcore cypherpunk or whatever, but let's be real. My grandma's never going to be spinning up a node and doing all this crazy stuff, but maybe she'll have it
Grandma
in her...
doesn't have a seed signer, you're telling me? What is wrong with your grandma?
She'll get her own stamp signer and get the metal thing.
Nice. Shout out to Stamp Seed.
Yeah. But I think it's fine. It's fine. We just have to keep moving the industry forward and then make it just so simple that we're going to onboard the next billion people just so instantly, or so easily at least. That's my idea.
In a world where water spills, fires rage, and pets chew everything in sight, only one thing can save your Bitcoin seed phrase: Stamp Seed. Don't let a coffee accident turn your Bitcoin into Bitcoin gone. With Stamp Seed, your seed phrase is engraved in metal, safe from elements, toddlers, and your own clumsiness. Use promo code BTCstory at stampseed.com for 15% off, because in the end, metal always wins. And now, let's get back to the episode. I agree. I think the biggest kind of pillar in our way to get those next billion people in is the ease of getting them in, right? And I think with time, that's getting easier and easier with the UXs, getting more friendlier. And just like the little, technological improvements that are making it easier for the non-cypherpunk, for the pre-coiner. I don't like calling them normies. I think that's a little bit disrespectful. I like referring to people as pre-coiners, because sooner or later you're going to get that coin. So in the bracket of pre-coiners, it's important to make it like KISS. Keep it super simple. Like, you don't want to be like straight away, as much as I'm an advocate for self-custody, I don't think that's the first thing you should get going. Like, get a custodial wallet, like get the feel for it, have the ease of just, as you said, download an app on your phone, receive your first sats, send your first sats, like get a feel for it. And then slowly, as you learn more about it, get a cold storage, move them to self-custody. It's all part of the story. Start running a node. If you want to go multi-sig as your stack gets bigger, it's all like ladders jumping, but you don't go like straight into the deep end and go and get an unchained account and like set up an inheritance plan from the get-go. It's a little bit overwhelming. So I guess, shout out to Aqua Wallet. The Jan 3, I think, are doing a fantastic job from both sides, like upper level of helping like governmental top level execs like start thinking about Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin holding, and then also like on the grassroots level, like developing a super easy, simple Bitcoin wallet that actually it is self-custody, which is even better in my books, but also kind of implementing that, liquid sidechain, because a lot of people in LATAM, to them, USDT is like the golden standard. Like Bitcoin's like, we know Bitcoin, but like everybody transacts on USDT, and kind of what Aqua Wallet is doing and other wallets where they kind of doing a symbiosis of putting together USDT with the Bitcoin wallet. I think that's a super nice correlating strategy that will help kind of shift more people to not just use USDT for spending, but then if they have an excess amount of USDT, have some of that in their Bitcoin wallet. So I think it's a nice kind of step and block. And as we progress and kind of more people work on it, I think we're just going to get better and better, experience softwares for the normal people to jump in. Imagine this: the market's crashing, Exchanges are freezing withdrawals, but you are cool as a cucumber because you are unruggable. By joining my Become Unruggable mentoring program, you'll get one-on-one support to safely move your Bitcoin into self-custody. I'll guide you step by step at your own pace, as well as making sure you have a rock-solid recovery plan in place. Take control, stay sovereign, get in touch with me via X, Nostr, or send me an email at becomeunruggable@proton.me. And let's make you unruggable.
No, I think that was brilliant. I think even as much as we want Bitcoin to instantly become all functions of money, I think it's okay for Bitcoin to be a store of value and treated as a savings account for some people for the next couple of years. And I would love for people in Latin America to have a wallet on their phone and they have USDT or whatever stable coin they're using. And then right below that, they have their savings account in Bitcoin. I think that innovation right there, that can propel Bitcoin to millions of dollars a coin. And then as the price stabilizes and it matures, then we can start looking at it as a real medium of exchange so I'm a big advocate of using Bitcoin on Lightning and all that, but let's be honest, you can't use it 99% of places, and that's perfectly fine right now. It grows as store value, then medium of exchange, and then unit of account way down the line. I think this is the progression that's gonna happen, hopefully, and I think that's perfectly fine. I don't know what you think about that. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
No, it does. I fully agree with that. But I would just add that, for people that do want to use it as a means of exchange, they're free to do so. Like, I live a pretty nomadic lifestyle, as I told you off the record. And like, for example, all addition help that I get for the podcast, everything is paid for in Bitcoin. And I also do Bitcoin self-custody mentoring. As probably you heard, I'm a big advocate for self-custody. All of my services are charged in Bitcoin. So like it's against my ethos to be taking fiat. Now there is some people that really want to pay in fiat, and like I really don't want that dirty fiat. So I'm not a maximalist in that sense. You can pay me in fiat, but there's going to be a 20% upmark. So if you want to pay 20% on top for the inconvenience, go ahead and do it. But then when you slap them with a 20% increase on the price, then it's like, maybe Gigi will send me that Bitcoin address. So like, it's a cheeky way to get them to actually start spending it instead of just hoarding it away. But then again, it's a free market. You can choose what you want to spend. Usually, like Jimmy Song, he always says like, spend the dirty fiat and save in Bitcoin. And I understand that point as well. He has a long history in the space. And I remember when I had him early on the podcast, he told me how he bought some nice beef jerky for like $8,000, which was good beef jerky, but it wasn't worth $8,000 converted to today's sats, and some alpaca socks that cost him like $5,000. So he was like, he learned his lesson early on. But then again, there's other people like, Joe Nakamoto that says, spend your Bitcoin and replace it, which I like. I think that's a good strategy, or if there's a business that accepts Bitcoin, just buy a little bit more Bitcoin on the spot through whatever app you're using or whatever exchange, go and spend it. So you're not kind of taken away from your stash. So there's many different strategies you can take. Or if you're like full, like 100% in, like I am, and this is not financial advice. I'm not saying everybody should. I just like to keep my 99.5% of my savings and wealth in Bitcoin, and I earn Bitcoin and I spend Bitcoin. And to me, it's like when prices at the moment, when they're going down, it's not like I have a heartache, because this is definitely not my first cycle. I've had several cycles, and like my average income price from the Bitcoin that I've been getting, I went really hard in January of 2023, which wasn't that long ago, just over 2 years ago. Price was $15,000, and today, even on this big correction from 108,000 to 75,000, like the portfolio, if you want to call it portfolio, but like my savings account's still looking pretty healthy, like from where it was. So like, I don't mind spending it. It's all, going back to, don't get sidetracked by the fiat prices. Just make sure that you're constantly making money. And more importantly, another piece of advice to the listeners is spend less than you earn, right? And that doesn't matter if you're making euros, dollars, sats, whatever it is, just live a little bit below your means, so you always have a buffer zone, and you're never kind of overexposed and in debt or taking credit. Like, I don't advise anyone to go out and get debt to buy more Bitcoin. I think that's very, in a personal level. Corporate level, that's something that's down your alley, and what strategy does essentially. But you know, it's down to you having that free choice. But I'll finish Gigi's ramble on how to spend and live off Bitcoin, and I want to transition it, Daniel, to another question, which is, I want to hear your take on it. You might not agree, but that's totally fine. Especially focusing on Saylor and the MicroStrategy Playbook, which is all about accumulate as much Bitcoin as they can. And they made it very clear that they're not going to sell their Bitcoin. Like, as Michael always says, like, never sell your Bitcoin. For a long time, I was of the same kind of mindset, as I mentioned, especially having Jimmy early on. And I was like just hodling all the way with my Bitcoin, and this whole HODL mantra of just hold your Bitcoin, don't spend it, spend the fiat, whatever fiat you get, just spend that. But over the last year, I switched 180%, and I said, well, how are we supposed to go into this hyper Bitcoinized world if everybody is just hodling? Bitcoin, as the white paper claims, it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash. It's not store your coins away and never use them. So what's your take on basically Saylor Playbook, to a certain sense, of just accumulating Bitcoin and holding it and like never spending it, just having it as your treasury reserve that you never touch? What's your take on that?
Yeah, man, that is this is a great
It's a
discussion,
deep
and
question, no
I
pressure.
definitely yeah, no. Listen, I think the first thing I'll say is, as I was kind of thinking as you were describing it earlier as well, there's the Bitcoin echo chamber, and then there's reality. And inside the Bitcoin echo chamber, you should absolutely pay with Bitcoin everywhere, and I do the same. You can pay for Bitcoin service in Bitcoin, you can do all these things, but then when you go out, you can't expect Jose in Guatemala that to now start paying with Bitcoin at his local farmer's market. He can try to advocate for it. He can find a farmer that accepts Bitcoin, but you can't expect the whole world to just work like that. So he's going to have to do whatever he can. And if that's using Bitcoin as savings and then USDT, it's fine with me. But I do agree with you. If we're all just sitting on Bitcoin, it's definitely not moving the needle for it as a medium of exchange. I do think it is only natural that it is actually a very good question, because Bitcoin in the white paper, it is as a monetary system, it's a peer-to-peer network of sending money, sending Bitcoin. But the whole narrative, especially the past 5-7 years, it's all about the investment as a store of value. I do have, this is like a dichotomy or a paradox. I do have confidence that Bitcoin will mature because through it as a store of value, because it's only natural for people to say, well, if Bitcoin is going up 60% a year, why would I spend it? That's when we then say, well, spend it and then replace it. But I also think people might take what Saylor is saying a little bit too literally sometimes, because there's a lot of things that you can do with Bitcoin that doesn't involve selling it. That's why he calls Strategy a Bitcoin development company, because he's incorporating it into all these financial products, and he'll probably start lending it in the future. That's my idea, but he's gonna do all these different things with Bitcoin, and maybe he will sell some to buy stuff, but I don't think that makes sense for him. But the point is, there's a lot of things you can do with Bitcoin that doesn't involve selling it. And I think I'll end it with this, as we're talking about Michael. He says the granite under New York doesn't have to do anything to be valuable. It doesn't have to move. The fact that it's there and it's solid is enough. And I think for the next decade, Bitcoin as the bedrock of savings and investment, I think it is enough. And when it reaches 5, 10, 20, $30 million a coin, it will naturally have evolved into all of these other different use cases as people keep pushing that. I don't think there's a scenario where we get hyper Bitcoinization and people just forget about using it as a medium of exchange, I think it's going to come very naturally. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. What do you think?
I hope not. I guess recently, Jack, not the Strike Jack, the other Jack, Jack Dorsey, he was talking about. I don't know if you saw that clip on X. He kind of said if Bitcoin is not used as a means of exchange,
Yeah.
like it becomes irrelevant. And then like the comment section was just like grilling Jack away, like like all of like Block and all of your services are not accepting Bitcoin, and there's kind of two sides to that coin, but. I mean, to me, really, Bitcoin shouldn't be, especially people that are starting their journey and I seeing that whole HODL mantra of just like hold it and don't spend it. I think they're dipping their toe like halfway. I would like them to not just dip their toe, but like jump into the ocean to kind of really experience it. Because I don't think by you just holding Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, may that be Strike, hopefully non KYC Bitcoin, but that's levels again higher as you learn further, and just holding in cold storage doesn't really do anything, and it doesn't really change your life. To me, for example, like going back to my anecdote, like I was stacking sats for many years, and at some point end of last year, I just got sick of doing the 9 to 5, and I decided to go full in on what I do and work full time on Bitcoin. And what allowed me was my Bitcoin stacking, but not just Bitcoin stacking. It allowed me to actually spend my Bitcoin and focus on what I really want to do. Like going back to, of course, Robert Saylor with What is Money show, like he talks about like his whole show, 500 plus episodes on really finding out what is money. To me, money simply is just a tools of means to get something that you want. And may that be a product, a service, or a better life. And to me, and I talk about this a lot on this podcast, is the one thing that's more scarcer than Bitcoin is your time. And Bitcoin actually is the only tool that can save you and give you more time. So this also, we like to use this quote on the show, not just stack sats and stay humble, as HODL has famously made, but I like to say stack sats, stack time. The more Bitcoin you're holding, it allows you to save money. You're basically leveraging time from your future for the now. Because if you hold more Bitcoin, and of course, as you said, on average, 50 to 60%, it compounds year on year, you can actually have more money, not to go out and buy that Lambo that's probably going to be spending most of the year at the service bay, but you actually can invest, start your own business, take time off, go travel the world, invest into things that you really want to do and enjoy your time on this planet. As many listeners know, I'm a proud young father to 2 young daughters. Ever since having my first child 5 years ago, like the time aspect has like just parabolic. Like every day, like I wake up and before I know it, it's the end of the day. Like it just goes by so fast. And what Bitcoin gives you is this, focus on the family, focus on the craft that I like doing. So, and if you're not spending your Bitcoin, you can't really live that free life that you want to. Because if you're just holding that Bitcoin in a custodial wallet or a non-custodial wallet, you're still doing that grind. You're still not living, kind of that quote unquote sovereign lifestyle, right? So to me, the aspect of really pushing on people to spend their Bitcoin is a big thing. And what we see now with the mempool, for example, earlier this morning, I checked the mempool, it was cleared again. Like since this year, like we are seeing mempool clear all the time. And I guess a lot of people are not spending their Bitcoin, like they're hodling away, or perhaps we're using more and more layer 2s, may that be Lightning, Liquid, or perhaps, the ETF Playbook, which is essentially off-chain. It's basically a ledger in someone's computer that's like recording how many buys, how many sells. And paper Bitcoin, that's a whole nother, we could do a whole episode on paper Bitcoin on that one. But like going back to the spending wise, like I really hope people start spending, and I'm a very big advocate for spending your Bitcoin. So like I'm really starting to dislike this hodl for dear life, like never sell your Bitcoin. It's like, no, like don't spend it ridiculously, but like for things that you really want, or for example, someone that really wants to have a house, and it was saving for like the last 5 years to buy the house that they really wanted, and now they're in a position to buy that house. By all means, go buy that house. I'm not saying it's the best investment you can do. I personally wouldn't. I'm on a rent ladder, and I much prefer renting and storing most of my wealth in Bitcoin. But if that's something that you really wanted and you want to have that insurance, you don't want to be on a renting ladder and you want to have kind of your safe haven in an actual house, go for it. Like, don't wait for those who knows what prices to come about, because maybe it'll take another 5 years for us to get to 1 million. You know, as much as Samson says, you know, the Omega cattle is inevitable, you know, 1 million Bitcoin is incoming, he doesn't have a crystal ball. Like, it might take 5 years to get to 1 million. It might take 6 months. You don't know. But like, the only thing you know is taking care of your means and your priorities right now. So kind of don't bet too much on the future. If you're in a position now to kind of really improve your life by forms of magnitude, go for it. Like, don't gamble it away. That's kind of my stance on it. What do you think, Daniel?
I think it's very wise. I think you've reached some very deep levels of the rabbit hole where you're coming full circle and coming out of all these crazy places. I admire that. It's definitely the ethos we wanna promote. I think maybe sometimes I am a little bit too lax on the whole Bitcoin maxi cypherpunk kind of things. To me, I love all that stuff. I just don't feel always I have the capacity to be doing everything to that highest level. For me, just buying Bitcoin, building my business, and spending Bitcoin here or there, it's enough for me. I don't have the capacity for a whole lot more. But it sounds like you are definitely on point with all these things, and I definitely respect that vision 100%.
Thanks, Daniel. Just to clarify, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I'm a freedom maxi. Like, to me, the main thing in what freedom gives me is the freedom part and the sovereignty to a high extent. You know, I'm sure you've read the book, The Sovereign Individual. Have you read that book, Daniel?
I have read like 4 different like synopsis of it, listened to 100 different audiobooks and pop. I never actually read the full book. I just disclaimer.
No problem. I respect honesty and transparency, but like I've recently, like over Christmas, the last Christmas, I read the Self-Sovereign Individual, and it's not Self-Sovereign, the Sovereign Individual book, and it just like opened my mind up that this book was written like over 30 years ago, and how it talked about like this, like the future of you like really owning your life, and you know, having this digital money in a digital kind of economy is like, wow, like we don't have to wait for that day. That day is today. And like, you know, as much as we live in turbulent times, I still stick to the side that we live in the most fascinating time ever in human history, because we're able to do so many things. We have these little supercomputers, not even the laptop, but even your smartphone. I mean, showing a smartphone to someone like 200 years ago, they would be like, wow, like you came from a parallel universe. Like, you can do all those things. Tell me what the weather is tomorrow, watch videos, read books. Like, it's just insane on a device that's like absolutely tiny. Like, there's so many possibilities. And I think we've just been like, as a humanity, we've been dumbed down by mainstream media, social media, to kind of just like sit in this like parameter of this is your life. Like, kind of there's this rhythm of going to school, finishing school, finding a nice job, retiring, and then dying, and that's it. That's life. Like, now with Bitcoin and everything we have, the technologies that are available to us, which are fairly cheap if you look at the grand scheme of things, you can do absolutely anything you want to do. And like, you can sell whatever you want online. You don't even need a website. You can have a social media page, whatever it is, the Instagram, Facebook, if anyone even uses Facebook anymore. I don't know. I haven't been on Facebook for half a decade, but like, it's super easy to just spin something on and sell a product, sell a service. And like, now with Bitcoin, you can just accept Bitcoin without any third parties, no little middleman taking their chunk of the pie, having to go through numerous KYCs to prove everything, to incorporate a company, to do all these things. It's just fascinating. And like, still yet people are pessimistic on the outlook of it. It's like, they're looking at the economy, they switch on the CNBC and they're like, oh my God, like everything's collapsing, and like, and now the tariffs are in, and oh my God, and this and that. Well, guys, I got some news for you. There's no tariffs on Bitcoin. So like, if anything, now is the time to be looking at alternative means of making a living. And Of course, we're still early, but it's never too early to start learning. So I think that's a nice point to kind of
I
summarize the
agree with
aspect
you.
of
That was
utilizing
great.
Bitcoin and 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 having your say in this new economy that we're all building. That's the beautiful thing as well, right? Like that we're not sitting and witnessing this revolution from the side court seats. We're actually, I feel like, hopefully I'm right, we're on the pitch doing our deed. We're not all LeBron James, but we're still doing our deed, you know, like we're still a part of it. Like we're giving something
No
back to
doubt.
help and shape it forward. And you know, I had the latest episode with Bob Burnett. We went really deep down the Bitcoin mining rabbit hole, but he really talked about how the kind of Bitcoin really depends on the voting process and people's actions. Like if we just sit back, it's like he gives an example of voting in elections, right? If you're not voting, you're actually not doing anything, right? Like because you need to have a say in something and you need to have some input to get an output. You can't just
Mm.
sit on the side and expect things to come out your way without doing anything. And Steve Jobs had another great quote back in the day. I'm going to butcher it a little bit. It's been a while since I mentioned that quote, but it went something along the lines of if you kind of if you poke into the world, on the other side, something pokes out. You know, there's always a reaction to an action. So I really tell people to, you know, and don't be afraid. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, especially online, people forget things really fast. So like, unless you try, you will never know. And maybe you're sitting on $1 million or a billion sats idea, but you just don't know it. And the only way you can find out is by actually having the courage and trying it out. So that's where I'll finish on that point.
Man, that's great. Listen, we are living in fantastic times. You can always point to something and say, "Oh, look at this and look at that," but show me any time in human history where it didn't suck really hard to be alive. Like any point in time, life, like Peterson says, the default state of life is suffering. But
Mm.
today, I would argue we have it better than we ever had it before. And with Bitcoin, this 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 is the part of Bitcoin that probably excites me the most, that by having a solid foundation to stand on and something to save in, it completely changes our outlook on life, our time horizon, our time preference, all of these things. I remember seeing this chart back before 1970s. The most important things to people were like family, health, experiences, doing something with their life. After 1970, around there, which we of course know what happened in 1971, it suddenly switched. The most important, you see, the old stuff is just going down, then the new stuff going up. It's like, have a good career, make a lot of money, become a millionaire. The money a civilization uses determines the state of consciousness of its inhabitants. If you have poor money, if you have corrupt, unsound, toxic money, you have a unsound civilization. And I will say that is what we're living through right now. Just peak
100%.
absolutely clown world. Absolutely ridiculous upside down world. But with Bitcoin, what we see in Bitcoiners and why I love Bitcoiners so much is that once you adopt the Bitcoin standard, like you were saying, time takes on a different meaning to you, and your children, your work, but not in a sense of like an occupation, but like deep work or your passion, or all these things take the center stage because you're no longer in a fight for survival. Because I would say
Mm.
before Bitcoin, you should be worried because you're gonna get wiped out, or your best investment is just gonna trace the M2 money supply. So you should be worried, honestly. But now with Bitcoin, you can save, like below your means, save in Bitcoin, whether you're a business or individual, and you know you'll be fine 5 to 10 years from now. And that peace of mind allows you to think further. Listen, I'll end it on this one. This is freaking fascinating. I don't know how I never hear more people talk about this. You can lose over 10 IQ points by being stressed about money. This is
Mm.
just crazy. They did these studies with especially Indian farmers where they usually get paid like once a year, and they literally see their IQ jumps when they get paid because now they feel confident, they feel great, they're boom, 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 they're doing stuff. And as the money starts waning, their IQ drops. The stress and the uncertainty and money worries literally drops your IQ. You clinically can test that. I'll just leave it on that. But I think it speaks for itself, you know.
Wow, I never heard of that, but that makes a lot of sense. You know, I definitely this is something new regarding the dropping of the IQ, but definitely kind of the stress factors of you know, kind of always being in a rush to make the bills pay and like being worried at night and not sleeping causes to many different, you know, byproducts. May that be cancer, which is a huge killer of humans around the world. And cancer, I believe, is like it all starts in your mind. It's there is some genetical stuff, but like if you're stressing a lot, and what's the main stress in this world? It's all about trickles down to money. It's not someone is too stressed because the weather's too good. No, someone is stressed because they don't know how they're going to make, you know, ends meet. How are they going to feed their children? How are they going to, you know, get by next month? And I think if we eradicate that out of the equation, then not only do we live a healthier life, after what you said, Daniel, you also live a smarter life. Like your IQ jumps up. So like it's a no-brainer if you're still listening to this episode and thinking, should I not start considering a Bitcoin standard? I think the answer was given to you in the last 5 minutes. But
well said. That was brilliant.
But Daniel, I want to wrap it up with, I usually ask guests to give one piece of advice for pre-coiners that are only starting their Bitcoin journey, but I'll do it a little bit of a spin on your case. What is kind of one piece of advice you would give for business owners that are looking to get started in Bitcoin today? What would that be?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Man, if you own a business or you're somehow a leader or CFO in any kind of organization, I would implore you to please understand, for all this to make sense, that you're not in a battle against CPI. You're in a war against monetary debasement or monetary inflation. Once you understand that, the pieces can fall into place, because we could be talking about this and yeah, man, I don't care. CPI, like inflation's 2%, whatever. Once you realize it's like baseline like 6-7%, in the past couple of years it's been like 12-13% after COVID. You got to realize any money that you have in your business or in your personal bank account, it's like literally somebody goes in and takes out 10% of it every year. Or your profits, if you're not growing them by that amount, then you're actually falling behind. And I think once that clicks for people, things suddenly make sense, because we all know there's not 2% inflation. I wish that was the case. Oh man.
That is fantastic advice. And yeah, on the CPI level, and also like kind of the basket of goods that they base the CPI off is bonkers. Like there's no like fuel and stuff. I remember, or like normal goods that you would actually like spend your money on are not in those baskets, and they not secretly, but like they shuffle around and they change them all the time to whatever, you know, suits them best, which is just bogus.
All these hedonic adjustments and weighing of different goods, and it's literally a con artists like sitting there manipulating and moving all this stuff around. And CPI, it's meant to volatility. It's meant to track the changes in prices. But when something changes too much, they say, no, it's too volatile. So let's take it out. What?
It doesn't make sense. You should just stick to the same basket of goods so you can see an actual realistic price and change. But if they would stick to that, then we wouldn't see that 2-3%. We would be seeing that 13 to 15%. And people would be questioning, maybe the system is broken. But the system is broken. And as Bitcoiners, we are kind of shedding the light on the broken system and doing what we can to kind of preach for a freer and prosperous world. Daniel, where can we send our listeners and fellow business owners that kind of want to learn more about how you can help them, and kind of what's the best place to send them to learn more about Sovereign and follow you online?
Well, thank you. I guess if somebody's looking for resources, they should go to our website. It's Sovereign without the E, so SOVREIGN.io. We got a business case for Bitcoin, a whole book about this. We got different kind of resources, blog posts, but you can find me on X, Daniel_Frank1, if you want to listen to me ramble on there, I guess.
Amazing, amazing. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm really happy to have had this conversation. I hope we can have another conversation in the future, as the Bitcoin journey is still in its early days. There's a lot of things to be done. There's a lot of things to be witnessed, and there's a lot of things to be discussed. So this is definitely not going to be the last conversation. And all the best of luck what you're doing with Sovereign. I love it. You know, that we as long as we're all not all focusing on the same thing, we're focusing on different aspects. It's important to cover all things and help, may that be individuals, companies, or governments, open their eyes to a freer and more prosperous way of living and giving a service.
Yes.
So thank you for everything you're doing, Daniel, and best of luck with it.
Well, absolutely. Thank you. And you are definitely in the on the court, in the arena, doing your part. I admire what you're doing. So best of luck with that as well. And this was a great conversation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit too. Your support keeps us going, and we appreciate it. See you in the next one.